Tom Sandoval just had an entire piece written about him for the New York Times Magazine, a sentence that I cannot believe I'm saying. People are rightly horrified about some of the comments he made. Yes, he compared himself to O.J. Simpson and George Floyd. I'm just gonna let that marinate for a second. But you know who I want to talk about? His publicist. Let's just say that 23-year-old Riley, who is Tom Sandoval's newest employee, got a really rough crash course in public relations. This is a statement that you never want to hear from an interviewer. Speaking about Riley, the 23-year-old who is on his PR team. Apparently this team has a background in crisis PR, which I have questions. Quote, I assumed Riley would be an impediment, but my fears were put to rest when she didn't flinch at the Danny Masterson comment, end quote. Yeah, because one of the things that Tom Sandoval said is that he feels like he gets more hate than Danny Masterson. That is one of those moments where you say, nope, stop the interview right here. You take your client, you go have a conversation. If you can't get that comment struck from the article, you talk to Tom about how he can elaborate so it sounds less awful. Yeah, not good. It's a really bad sign when you as the publicist become part of the story because of how jaw-droppingly inept the process is. The author then writes, Riley is 23, has watched Vanderpump since she was in middle school, and seemed as interested in Sandoval's life as I was. You do not want to hire fans or yes men and women. You want to hire people that are going to call you on your shiz and protect you. All I can think of is Sheena Shea saying to Tom Sandoval, a narcissist wouldn't admit they're a narcissist. Yikes. It gets worse. Riley decides to interject a question during this interview as if they are just sharing the chisme. And there is this quote that has raced around the internet. I asked Sandoval why he thought the scandal got so big. Quote, I'm not a pop culture historian, really, end quote. You'll think? Quote, but I witnessed the O.J. Simpson thing and George Floyd and all these big things, which is really weird to compare this to that, I think. But do you think in a weird way it's a little bit the same, end quote? Not gonna list all the ways that the murder of a black man is different than you willingly cheating on your girlfriend of 10 years. Gonna do it? Not gonna do it? Not gonna do it. And then the author writes that they look over at Riley, who is furiously typing on her phone. As the interview is completed and Tom Sandoval goes upstairs, Riley tells the author that sometimes he says too much. Yes, that's why you listen with precision, like a hawk, to the interview being conducted of your client and jump in before they absolutely drown themselves. I know Tom Sandoval said on tonight's episode that the cold water plunge was a 9 out of 10 in terms of pain. This was an 11 out of 10. We find out that the next day, the author of the piece was supposed to attend one of Sandoval's confessional interviews for the show. But then she gets a text from his publicist, who is Riley's boss. The publicist is like, you shouldn't attend today. He's not feeling his best. And she gets calls from Bravo Production, who have found out about the O.J. Simpson, George Floyd comment. Maybe Sandoval wasn't ready for this. The author of the piece writes, you know who wasn't ready for this? Riley. And who sent Riley off on her lonesome to handle Tom Sandoval during the New York Times Magazine interviewing him? 2 weeks later, and the author drove to a soundstage in Burbank where Sandoval was taping his next confessional. Riley was not there. Instead, they were joined by a Bravo publicist and Erica Forstadt, who is a senior NBC Universal executive. They were trying to salvage this. It's interesting because this week we are having a sort of similar conversation about Prince William's gaffe at the BAFTAs. Because of course there's personal responsibility. You should read your advance prep before an event, and you should know at this point, after nearly a decade on reality TV, what not to say during an interview. But also, the people who are your handlers should know these flaws about you and do everything in their power to get ahead of them. If you're a publicity team, don't send out the girl who has been watching the show since she was in middle school, who was born after 2000, doesn't remember 9/11. That is not the person that you send out alone to handle Tom Sandoval with the New York Times Magazine. This article was brutal, and in so many ways other than what Tom Sandoval said.